The warning came too late. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UNSS Defiance watching Earth burn through the view screen. Cities that had stood for thousands of years were now nothing but glowing craters. The Krell invasion fleet had arrived without warning, tearing through humanity's outer colonies like paper before setting their sights on the homeworld. "Ma'am, we're receiving distress signals from New York, Tokyo, and Mumbai simultaneously," Lieutenant Marcus Webb reported, his voice cracking. "The Krell are bombarding population centers." Sarah's jaw clenched. The Defiance was one of only 12 warships humanity had managed to launch before the main assault began. 12 ships against an armada of thousands. The odds were impossible, but humanity had never been good at accepting defeat. "How many ships do they have in the immediate sector?" she asked. "Sensors are counting 300 capital ships, ma'am. Maybe twice that in fighters and support craft." 300? Sarah had fought in the border wars against pirate fleets and rogue colonies. She'd commanded peacekeeping missions in the Outer Rim. But nothing had prepared her for this. The Krell were unlike anything humanity had encountered before. They were a hive mind species, controlled by massive queens that directed their warriors with cold efficiency. They didn't negotiate. They didn't take prisoners. They simply consumed everything in their path. "Where are the other ships?" Sarah turned to her communications officer. "The Wellington and the Valor are defending the evacuation corridors near Luna. The rest are scattered across the system, trying to protect the refugee ships." Refugee ships. Millions of humans were fleeing Earth in whatever vessels they could find. Cargo haulers, mining ships, luxury cruisers, anything with an engine and life support. They were running because there was no other choice. The Krell didn't want territory or resources. They wanted extinction. "Ma'am, incoming transmission from Admiral Reeves on Mars Command." The view screen flickered and Admiral James Reeves appeared. His uniform was scorched, his face covered in ash. Behind him, Sarah could see fires raging through the command center. "Chen, we don't have much time," Reeves said. "The Krell have broken through our orbital defenses. Mars will fall within the hour. I'm ordering all remaining ships to rally at Titan. We're abandoning the inner system." Sarah felt her stomach drop. "Sir, there are still billions of people on Earth. We can't just leave them. We don't have a choice." Reeves shouted, then composed himself. "Captain, I've been a soldier for 40 years. This is the hardest order I've ever given. But if we stay, humanity dies here. If we fall back to Titan, we might have a chance to regroup, to figure out how to fight these things." "What about evacuation?" "Every ship that can carry civilians is already doing so. But the Krell are targeting them specifically. They want to break us, Chen. They want us to watch our world die." Reeves paused, and Sarah saw something she'd never seen in the Admiral's eyes before. Fear. "Get to Titan. That's an order. Reeves out." The screen went dark. Sarah stood in silence for a moment, then turned to her crew. 23 men and women who had trusted her with their lives. They were looking at her now, waiting for orders, waiting for hope. "You heard the Admiral," she said quietly. "Set course for Titan, maximum speed." "What about the evacuation ships?" Webb asked. Sarah walked to the tactical display, studying the scattered points of light that represented fleeing humanity. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all trying to escape the Krell net that was tightening around Earth. "We'll escort as many as we can," she decided. "Plot an intercept course with the largest concentration of civilian ships. We'll provide cover fire as long as we're able." "Yes, ma'am." As the Defiance changed course, Sarah watched Earth shrink on the view screen. Her home, the birthplace of humanity. 20 billion souls still down there, and she was running away. The guilt was overwhelming, but Reeves was right. If they stayed to fight now, they'd die pointlessly. Humanity needed time to understand this enemy, to adapt, to find a weakness. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from one of the civilian convoys," the communications officer announced. "It's the Prosperity, a colony ship carrying 15,000 people. They're requesting military escort. Tell them we're on our way." "How many Krell ships are in pursuit?" "At least 30, ma'am. Fighter class, moving fast." Sarah felt a spark of something ignite in her chest. Not quite hope, but close. Defiance. That's what her ship was named, and that's what humanity would become. Defiant in the face of extinction. "All hands to battle stations," she ordered. "Charge weapons and prepare for engagement. If the Krell want those civilians, they'll have to go through us first." The crew moved with practiced efficiency, preparing for battle. Sarah watched the tactical display as the Krell fighters closed in on the Prosperity. The colony ship was massive but slow, a sitting target for the enemy swarm. Time to intercept? She asked. 4 minutes, ma'am. The Prosperity won't last that long, Webb said grimly. Sarah studied the display, her mind racing through tactical scenarios. The Krell fighters were fast and numerous, but they were also predictable. They relied on overwhelming force and hive mind coordination. What they lacked was creativity, individual thinking, the ability to adapt on the fly. That was humanity's advantage. That was how they'd survive. Helm, emergency deceleration as soon as we're in range, Sarah ordered. Weapons, prepare to fire a full missile spread. Target the center of their formation. Ma'am, if we decelerate that hard, we'll overshoot the enemy position, the helmsman protested. Exactly. We're going to punch right through them. Hit them from inside their formation where they can't maneuver effectively. It's chaos, but chaos is something humans understand better than any hive mind. Webb smiled grimly. Aye, Captain. Give 'em hell. The Defiance hurtled toward the Krell swarm at maximum speed. Sarah gripped the arms of her command chair, her heart pounding. This was it. The first real battle of humanity's last war. Win or lose, the Krell were about to learn something important about the species they'd chosen to exterminate. Humans didn't go quietly into the dark. They fought. They adapted. They survived. Entering weapons range in 10 seconds, Webb announced. Sarah leaned forward. Fire! Planning the impossible took 2 weeks. Sarah worked around the clock with a team of military strategists, engineers, and scientists. They studied every scrap of data on the Krell, analyzing battle recordings frame by frame, dissecting the alien technology recovered from destroyed ships, searching for any weakness they could exploit. Dr. Vasquez became an invaluable asset. Her knowledge of Krell biology and behavior was unmatched among human scientists. She had been studying their species for years, back when they were just a mysterious civilization on the far side of the galaxy. Nobody had expected them to become humanity's executioners. The queens are the key, Vasquez explained during one late-night briefing. She projected a 3-dimensional model of a Krell queen into the holographic display. The creature was massive, easily 10 meters long, with a bloated body protected by thick chitinous armor. Each queen produces specialized pheromones that control her warriors. Without those pheromones, the warriors become disoriented and aggressive, even attacking each other. Sarah studied the image with tired eyes. How many queens does a typical mothership carry? Our best estimate is between 3 and 5. They're kept in separate chambers deep within the ship, protected by hundreds of warrior drones. So we need to kill multiple queens while fighting through an army of aliens inside a ship we know nothing about, Lieutenant Webb summarized. He'd survived the Defiance's destruction and insisted on joining Sarah's new mission. Sounds simple. Torres, who was also part of the planning team, snorted. Simple and suicidal. My favorite combination. Sarah appreciated their dark humor. It kept the team focused, prevented despair from setting in. They all knew this mission was a long shot, but it was the only shot they had. We need better intelligence on the mothership layouts, Sarah said. Do we have any reconnaissance data? Commander Richard Park, a signals intelligence specialist, nodded. We've been monitoring Krell communications for weeks. Most of it is encrypted in ways we can't break, but we have picked up some interesting patterns. The Krell seem to be concentrating their forces in the asteroid belt. There's a mothership there that appears to be coordinating salvage operations. Salvage? Sarah frowned. What are they salvaging? Destroyed human ships, debris from the battle for Mars, anything with intact technology. Park brought up new data. We think they're studying us, trying to understand how we fight. The irony is that by doing so, they're giving us a chance to study them. Sarah felt a plan forming in her mind. If they're salvaging human technology, we can use that. We plant a tracking device on a piece of debris. Let them take it back to the mothership. Once we know the ship's exact location and have internal sensor data, we plan our insertion. And how exactly do we insert a strike team into a Krell mothership? Vasquez asked skeptically. We use their own tactics against them, Sarah replied. She pulled up images of Krell boarding pods. The Krell use these to breach human ships during combat. We captured several intact pods from the debris field. If we can modify them, disguise our biosignatures, we might be able to approach the mothership without triggering their defenses. Webb whistled low. That's actually crazy enough to work. The Krell are used to their own ships coming and going. They might not scan a boarding pod too carefully if it's broadcasting the right identification codes. Can we crack their identification codes? Sarah asked Park. The signals specialist grinned. I've been working on nothing else for the past week. It's not perfect, but I think I can create a false ID that will fool their automated systems long enough for you to dock. How long is long enough? Maybe 10 minutes. After that, someone's going to notice the discrepancy and investigate. Sarah nodded. 10 minutes to get inside, locate the queens, and eliminate them. Then we fight our way back out. It's tight, but doable. You're forgetting one problem, Torres interjected. Even if we kill the queens on one mothership, there are dozens more out there. We'd have to repeat this operation over and over again. Eventually, the Krell will adapt their defenses. Then we don't just kill the queens, Sarah said quietly. We capture one. The room went silent. Everyone stared at her like she'd lost her mind. Captain, capturing a Krell queen alive would be even more difficult than killing them, Vasquez protested. Queens are massive, heavily guarded, and their warriors will fight to the death to protect them. I know, but if we can capture one, you can study it, right? Figure out how the pheromone control works. Maybe even find a way to disrupt it on a larger scale. Vasquez considered this, her scientific curiosity warring with her survival instincts. In theory, yes. If I could examine a living queen, I might be able to synthesize a counter-pheromone or develop some kind of jamming technology. But the risk? Everything we do is a risk, Sarah interrupted. The question is whether the potential reward justifies it. I think capturing a queen could give us the key to winning this war. Admiral Reeves had been listening quietly from the back of the room. Now he stepped forward. Captain Chen, you're asking for authorization to attempt something unprecedented. To infiltrate an enemy mothership, kill multiple queens, and somehow capture one alive, all with a team of what, a dozen people? 20 would be better, sir. But yes, that's what I'm asking. Reeves looked around at the assembled team. Anyone here think this is a good idea? Silence, then Torres raised her hand. I do, sir. It's insane, but so was ramming a battlecruiser, and that worked. Sometimes crazy is all we've got. Webb raised his hand next. I'm in, Admiral. One by one, every person in the room raised their hand. Vasquez was last, but eventually even she nodded. Reeves sighed, looking older than ever. God help us all. All right, Captain. You have your authorization. Put together your team, modify those boarding pods, and get ready to show the Krell what humanity is really capable of. Over the next week, Sarah assembled her strike team. 20 of the best soldiers, pilots, and specialists humanity had left. They trained in mock-up corridors built to match Krell ship layouts, practiced breaching techniques, studied alien anatomy to identify weak points. Every member of the team knew this was likely a one-way mission, but nobody backed out. Torres and her pilots worked on modifying the Krell boarding pods, stripping out alien systems and replacing them with human controls while maintaining the external appearance. Park programmed false identification codes that would hopefully fool the mothership's sensors. Dr. Vasquez developed sedatives that might work on Krell biology and designed a containment unit for transporting a live queen. Sarah spent her evenings writing letters to be delivered if she didn't return, letters to her parents if they'd survived the fall of Earth, to her crew members who had died on the Defiance, to future generations who would read about this war in history books, assuming humanity survived to write those books. On the day of the mission, Sarah stood in the launch bay watching her team perform final equipment checks. They wore heavy combat armor, carried experimental weapons designed to penetrate Krell carapaces, and each had a suicide pill in case of capture. The Krell were known to do terrible things to prisoners. Nervous? Webb asked, coming up beside her. Terrified, Sarah admitted, but also ready. We've done everything we can to prepare. Now it's just about execution. And luck. Don't forget luck, Sarah smiled. Luck favors the bold, or so they say. Let's hope whoever they are was right. The team assembled at the modified boarding pods. 3 pods, 6 or 7 people per pod, all equipped with the false identification codes that would hopefully get them inside the mothership undetected. Sarah took one last look at Titan Station through the bay windows. It might be the last time she saw it. All right, everyone, she addressed her team. You know the mission. Get in, eliminate the queens, capture one if possible, get out. The Krell think they've broken us. Let's show them they're wrong. Let's show them that humanity doesn't surrender. We fight, we survive, we win. The team responded with a chorus of affirmations, their voices strong and confident. Sarah climbed into the lead boarding pod, strapping herself into the pilot seat. Torres was beside her, Webb behind them with 3 other soldiers. The pod's interior was cramped and uncomfortable. designed for Krell warriors rather than humans. All pods report ready. The communications officer transmitted from Titan Station. Sarah took a deep breath and activated the pod's engines. This is Strike Leader. Beginning approach to target. See you all on the other side. The 3 pods detached from the station and began their journey into the asteroid belt, toward the Krell mothership and whatever fate awaited them there. Behind them, the human survivors watched and hoped. Ahead of them, an alien empire waited, completely unaware that humanity was about to strike back with everything it had. The hunt had begun. The Defiance's missile batteries erupted in a storm of fire. Dozens of warheads streaked through space, leaving trails of white light against the darkness. The Krell fighters detected the attack and began evasive maneuvers, but Sarah had predicted this. The missiles weren't aimed at where the enemy was. They were aimed at where they would be. Brace for impact, Sarah shouted as the Defiance plowed directly into the Krell formation. The ship shuddered violently as it raced through the swarm at impossible speeds. Krell fighters scattered in all directions, their tight formation broken by the audacious human tactic. Then the missiles hit home. Explosions blossomed across the void, vaporizing a dozen enemy craft instantly. Direct hits, Webb reported triumphantly. We got 12 confirmed kills. Don't celebrate yet, Sarah warned. Helm emergency deceleration. Bring us around for another pass. The Defiance's engines screamed as they reverse thrust, slowing the massive warship from its breakneck speed. Through the view screen, Sarah could see the Prosperity still limping toward safety, its hull scarred from glancing hits. The remaining Krell fighters were reforming, preparing to continue their assault. They're adapting faster than expected, Webb observed. The fighters are spreading out, making themselves harder to hit with area weapons. Sarah nodded. The Krell might be a hive mind, but they weren't stupid. They learned from each engagement, sharing information instantaneously across their network. Humanity would need to stay unpredictable to survive. Launch our fighters, Sarah ordered. Tell them to use close-range tactics. Force the Krell into dogfights where individual skill matters more than coordinated swarms. 6 human fighters launched from the Defiance's hangar bay, tiny sparks of defiance against the alien tide. Sarah watched as Lieutenant Commander Rachel Torres led her squadron directly into the Krell formation, her fighter weaving through enemy fire with practiced grace. Torres had been a test pilot before the war, known for flying maneuvers that other pilots said were impossible. Now she was proving why humanity had always been exceptional in the cockpit. While the Krell relied on their hive mind for coordination, human pilots trusted their instincts, their reflexes, their ability to see patterns and exploit them. Torres is engaging, Webb reported. Her squadron is breaking up the Krell attack formation. On the tactical display, Sarah watched as Torres and her pilots danced through space, their movements chaotic and unpredictable. A Krell fighter exploded as Torres lured it into the crossfire of 2 of its own allies. Another went spinning out of control after a human pilot executed a barrel roll that should have been aerodynamically impossible in the vacuum of space. The Prosperity is increasing speed, the helmsman announced. They're going to make it. Sarah allowed herself a small breath of relief, but it was short-lived. A new alarm blared across the bridge. Contact. Large vessel dropping out of warp, bearing 270. The sensor officer shouted. It's a Krell battlecruiser. Sarah's blood ran cold. Krell battlecruisers were nightmares made real. Each one was over 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons and protected by shields that could shrug off anything short of a direct nuclear strike. The Defiance was outgunned and outmatched. Size of the enemy vessel? She asked, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her gut. 2.3 kilometers. It's one of their Harvester-class ships. Ma'am, it's charging weapons. Target appears to be the Prosperity. 15,000 civilians. Families, children, elderly people who had already lost everything. The Krell battlecruiser would obliterate them in a single shot. Put us between them, Sarah ordered without hesitation. All power to forward shields. Prepare to return fire with everything we have, Captain. Our shields won't hold against a direct hit from that thing, Webb protested. Then we better hope their aim is off. Sarah gripped her command chair. Do it! The Defiance surged forward, positioning itself directly in the path between the battlecruiser and the fleeing colony ship. On the view screen, Sarah could see the Krell vessel charging its main cannon, a weapon designed to crack planets. They're firing, the sensor officer screamed. A lance of pure energy erupted from the battlecruiser, a beam of destruction that could vaporize anything in its path. It struck the Defiance's forward shields with the force of a nuclear detonation. The entire ship lurched backward, throwing crew members from their stations. Alarms shrieked as systems overloaded across all decks. Shield status, Sarah shouted over the chaos. Forward shields at 12%. Hull breach on decks 7 and 8. We're venting atmosphere. Seal those sections and reroute power from the aft shields. Weapons, I want a firing solution on that battlecruiser now. Webb looked at her like she was insane. Captain, our weapons can't penetrate its shields. Then we'll have to get creative. Sarah turned to the tactical display, her mind racing. The battlecruiser was powerful, but it was also slow and overconfident. It hadn't even bothered to deploy fighter escorts. That was its mistake. Torres, do you copy? Sarah spoke into the communications channel. Still here, Captain? Torres responded, her voice tight. What do you need? I need you to play bait. Get your squadron close to that battlecruiser. Make it think you're attempting a strafing run. I need it focused on you for exactly 15 seconds. That's suicide, ma'am. Those point defense systems will shred us. Not if you're as good as everyone says you are. Can you do it? There was a pause, then Torres laughed. It was a wild sound full of reckless courage. Hell yes, I can. Torres out. Sarah watched as the 6 human fighters broke off from their engagement with the Krell fighters and streaked toward the massive battlecruiser. They looked like insects buzzing around a giant, insignificant and doomed. Helm, plot a ramming course, Sarah ordered quietly. The bridge went silent. Everyone turned to stare at their captain. Ma'am, the helmsman whispered. You heard me. Full speed ramming course. Target their power core. Sarah's voice was calm, almost serene. Prepare to evacuate all personnel to the life pods. Captain, you can't. Webb stepped toward her. This is a 1 billion credit warship with a crew of 300. And the Prosperity has 15,000 civilians, Sarah replied. The math is simple, Marcus. Evacuate the crew. That's an order. Webb's face twisted with anguish, but he nodded. Yes, ma'am. As the evacuation alarm sounded throughout the ship, Sarah watched Torres and her squadron dance through the battlecruiser's defensive fire. They were buying time with their lives, trusting their captain to make it count. Torres, break off in 5 seconds, Sarah transmitted. Copy that, Captain. It's been an honor. Save it. You're going to survive this war and tell everyone about the crazy captain who rammed a battlecruiser. Torres actually laughed. Yes, ma'am. Sarah counted down in her head, watching the Defiance accelerate toward the enemy vessel. At this speed, the impact would be catastrophic for both ships. The battlecruiser's shields might protect it from weapons fire, but they couldn't stop raw kinetic force. All crew evacuated except bridge personnel, Webb reported. Ma'am, please. Get to a life pod, Sarah shook her head. Someone needs to keep us on course. The rest of you get out now. Not a chance, Webb said firmly. The rest of the bridge crew nodded in agreement. Sarah felt a surge of pride. This was humanity at its finest. Courage in the face of certain death. Defiance when extinction loomed. Impact in 30 seconds, the helmsman announced. The Krell battlecruiser finally realized the danger. It tried to maneuver, but it was too slow, too massive. The Defiance was going to hit home. 20 seconds. Sarah thought of Earth burning behind them. Of all the lives already lost. Of the ones they were about to save. 10 seconds, 9-8. This was humanity's answer to the Krell invasion. Not surrender. Not despair. Just courage and sacrifice. 3, 2, 1. The Defiance struck the battlecruiser like the fist of an angry god. The impact was beyond description. Metal screamed as it tore through metal. The Defiance's reinforced prow pierced the battlecruiser's shields like they were made of paper. The ship's entire mass focused on a single devastating point. The two vessels locked together in a deadly embrace, momentum carrying them both forward in a spinning catastrophe of destruction. Sarah felt herself thrown from her chair, her body slamming against the bulkhead. Around her, the bridge was disintegrating. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks. The view screen shattered, exposing the compartment to the void. Emergency bulkheads slammed down, sealing off sections of the ship, but it was too late for many. Through the ringing in her ears, Sarah heard Webb shouting something. She couldn't make out the words. Everything was chaos and pain and the shriek of dying ships. Then there was a flash of brilliant light as the battlecruiser's power core went critical. The explosion tore both vessels apart. Sarah's last thought before unconsciousness took her was a simple one. They had won. The Prosperity would escape. 15,000 lives saved at the cost of one warship. It was a trade she'd make again without hesitation. When Sarah opened her eyes, she wasn't dead. That was the first surprise. The second was that she was floating in a life pod, watching the debris field drift past the small window. Twisted metal, burning fragments, bodies frozen in the void. The remains of 2 mighty warships reduced to cosmic garbage. "Captain Chen, please respond." A voice crackled over the pod's emergency radio. "This is Lieutenant Torres. If you can hear me, please respond." Sarah's hand fumbled for the transmit button. "Torres, you're alive?" "So are you, thank God." Torres sounded genuinely relieved. "We've got 20 life pods recovered so far, including yours. The Prosperity is standing by to pick up survivors. We're going to make it, Captain." Sarah closed her eyes, letting the relief wash over her. 20 pods. Out of a crew of 300, maybe 60 people had survived. The cost of their victory was staggering, but they had proven something crucial. The Krell could be hurt. They could be killed. And humanity would make them pay for every life they took. 3 days later, Sarah stood in the command center of Titan Station, humanity's last major stronghold in the solar system. The station orbited Saturn's largest moon, hidden among the rings where the Krell sensors had difficulty tracking human ships. It had become the rallying point for what remained of Earth's military forces. The room was packed with officers, captains, admirals, and civilian leaders. Everyone who had made it to Titan after the fall of Earth. Their faces were haggard, marked by loss and exhaustion. But there was something else there too. A spark of defiance that Sarah recognized from her own crew. Admiral Reeves stood at the front of the room, looking older than he had just days before. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "I know many of you have only just arrived. I know you've lost people, lost homes, lost everything, but we can't afford to grieve. Not yet." He activated a holographic display showing the solar system. Red markers indicated Krell positions. There were dozens of them, concentrated around Earth but spreading outward like a cancer. The Krell have taken Earth, Mars, Venus, and most of the asteroid colonies. Reeves continued. "Best estimates put human casualties at 19 billion dead. Another 3 billion are unaccounted for, presumed killed or taken by the enemy. The numbers were incomprehensible. 22 billion people. Gone." Sarah had known Earth was lost, but hearing the actual figures made it real in a way that was almost unbearable. "We have approximately 1 billion survivors scattered across evacuation ships, mining colonies, and remote outposts," Reeves said. "We have 11 operational warships, down from a fleet of 47 before the invasion. We have limited ammunition, dwindling supplies, and an enemy that outnumbers us 1,000 to 1. He paused, looking around the room at the assembled officers. "Any one of you would be justified in saying this is hopeless, that we should surrender and hope for mercy. But we all know the Krell don't offer mercy. They want us extinct." Sarah stood up. "Then we don't give them that satisfaction." All eyes turned to her. She saw recognition on some faces. Word of the Defiance's last stand had spread through the fleet. She'd become a symbol, though she didn't feel like one. She just felt tired and angry. "Captain Chen," Reeves acknowledged. "You have something to add?" "Yes, sir. 3 days ago, my ship destroyed a Krell battlecruiser. We were outgunned, outmatched, and we still won. Why? Because we did something they didn't expect. We were unpredictable, creative, human." She walked to the holographic display, studying the Krell positions. The Krell are a hive mind. They share information instantly, adapt quickly, but they also think alike. They follow patterns. If we can identify those patterns, we can exploit them. One ship against one battlecruiser is different from 11 ships against thousands, another captain pointed out. The odds are impossible. The odds have always been impossible, Sarah countered. Humans shouldn't have survived the Ice Age, but we did. We shouldn't have been able to split the atom or reach the stars, but we did. Impossible is just a word. What matters is whether we're willing to fight. An older woman in a civilian suit stood up. Sarah recognized her as Dr. Elena Vasquez, one of Earth's leading xenobiologists. "Captain Chen is right about the Krell's hive mind being both their strength and weakness," Dr. Vasquez said. "I've been studying the battle recordings from the initial invasion. The Krell warriors operate with perfect coordination, but they lack individual initiative. If we can disrupt their command structure even temporarily, we might be able to create opportunities." "How do we disrupt a hive mind?" Reeves asked. We target the queens, Dr. Vasquez replied. She pulled up new data on the holographic display. Krell warriors are controlled by queen organisms. Each queen can command thousands of drones. If we eliminate a queen, the drones under her control become confused, vulnerable. It's not a permanent solution, but it could give us tactical advantages in specific engagements. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. This was it. This was the weakness they needed. Where are these queens located? That's the problem, Dr. Vasquez admitted. They're kept safe on the Krell motherships, heavily defended vessels that never get close to the front lines. Reaching one would require penetrating deep into enemy territory. Then that's what we do, Sarah said simply. The room erupted in protests. It was suicide. It was impossible. They didn't have the resources. Sarah let them argue for a moment, then raised her voice. Listen to me. The Krell think they've already won. They think we're broken, scattered, defeated. That's our advantage. They're not expecting us to strike back. They're certainly not expecting us to go after their queens. Reeves held up a hand for silence. Captain Chen, I understand your point. But Dr. Vasquez is right. We don't have the military strength to assault a mothership directly. Then we don't assault it directly, Sarah replied. We use subterfuge, deception. We make them think we're doing one thing while we do another. It's called strategy, and it's something humans invented because we had to fight enemies bigger and stronger than us. She turned to address the entire room. The Krell have numbers and technology on their side, but we have something they don't. Imagination. The ability to lie, to deceive, to think 3 moves ahead. We can win this, but only if we're willing to be smart about it. Admiral Reeves studied her for a long moment. Sarah could see him weighing the risks, considering the possibilities. Finally, he nodded. All right, Captain. You've got my attention. What exactly are you proposing? Sarah smiled grimly. I'm proposing we stop running and start hunting. We gather intelligence on Krell movements, identify which mothership is commanding the forces in this sector, and we kill the queen on board. Once we prove it can be done, we do it again. And again. Until the Krell realized that invading humanity was the biggest mistake they ever made. The room was silent. Then slowly, one officer began to applaud. Then another. Then the entire room was on its feet, not cheering but showing quiet, determined support. Reeves walked over to Sarah and extended his hand. You just volunteered to lead this mission, you know that? Sarah shook his hand firmly. I wouldn't have it any other way, sir. Then let's get to work, Reeves said. We've got a war to win. For the first time since Earth fell, Sarah felt something she thought she'd lost forever. Hope. The asteroid belt was a graveyard. Sarah piloted the boarding pod through fields of debris that had once been human ships, stations, and dreams. Twisted metal drifted past like ghosts, silent reminders of how badly humanity had lost the initial battle. But that was about to change. Target acquired, Torres announced, her voice calm despite the tension. Krell mothership bearing 035. Distance 200 kilometers. Through the pod's viewport, Sarah could see it. The mothership was enormous, easily 5 kilometers long, its organic-looking hull covered in bioluminescent patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat. Dozens of smaller Krell ships orbited it like remora around a shark, salvaging debris from the battlefield. Park's tracking device is transmitting, Webb reported from the back of the pod. The Krell salvage crews took the bait. They brought our rigged debris on board 3 hours ago. We've got internal sensor data streaming in now. Sarah studied the incoming data on her tactical display. The tracking device was sending back a rough map of the mothership's interior, marking corridors, chambers, and most importantly, the location of the queen chambers. There were 4 of them positioned in the ship's core like a grotesque heart. All pods, this is Strike Leader, Sarah transmitted. We have target confirmation. 4 queen chambers, heavily defended. We'll split into 2 teams once we're inside. Team Alpha takes the upper chambers. Team Beta takes the lower ones. Remember, we need at least 1 queen alive. Acknowledgements came back from the other 2 pods. Everyone knew their roles. Everyone understood the stakes. Approaching identification range, Torres warned. Broadcasting false codes now. Sarah held her breath as they drew closer to the mothership. This was the critical moment. If Park's identification codes didn't work, if the Krell sensors detected something wrong, they'd be vaporized before they got within a kilometer of the hull. Seconds ticked by. The mothership loomed larger, its surface crawling with activity. Sarah could see Krell drones moving across the hull like ants, performing repairs and maintenance. None of them seemed to notice the 3 boarding pods approaching. "We're being scanned," Torres said tensely. Sarah's hand moved to the pod's weapon controls, ready to fire if they were discovered. But the scan passed over them without incident. The false codes were holding. Scan complete. "They're ignoring us," Torres exhaled. "We're just another work crew as far as they're concerned." "Don't celebrate yet," Sarah muttered. "We still need to dock." The pods followed standard Krell approach vectors, mimicking the behavior of legitimate ships. Sarah had studied hours of footage showing how Krell boarding pods moved, their patterns and protocols. Now she replicated those movements exactly, praying that no one would look too closely. They reached the mothership's hull and latched onto a docking port near one of the maintenance bays. The magnetic clamps engaged with a solid thunk that Sarah felt through the entire pod. They were connected now, committed to the mission. "Pressurizing the airlock," Webb reported. "Prepare for breach." Sarah and her team unbuckled from their seats and moved to the pod's exit hatch. They checked their weapons one final time, activated their armor's environmental systems, and prepared to enter hell itself. "Remember, move fast and stay quiet as long as possible," Sarah reminded them. "The longer we go undetected, the better our chances." The hatch opened with a hiss, revealing the interior of the Krell mothership. The corridor beyond was dim, lit by the same bioluminescent patterns that covered the exterior hull. The air was thick and humid, making Sarah's skin crawl inside her armor. Everything about this place felt wrong, alien, hostile. "Clear," Torres whispered, moving into the corridor with her weapon raised. No hostiles visible. The team moved out quickly and efficiently. They'd practiced this insertion 100 times, but nothing could have prepared them for the reality of being inside an enemy ship, surrounded by thousands of aliens who wanted them dead. The interior of the mothership was like being inside a living organism. The walls pulsed rhythmically, organic conduits ran along the ceiling carrying unknown fluids, and the floor had a disturbing give to it, as if they were walking on flesh rather than metal. Sarah tried not to think about it too much. "Other teams reporting successful insertion," Webb whispered. "All 20 operatives are inside and moving to their objectives." Sarah nodded, leading her team deeper into the ship. According to the tracking data, the nearest Queen chamber was 300 meters ahead, down a series of twisting corridors that seemed designed to confuse invaders. The Krell clearly never expected anyone to be crazy enough to board their mothership. They encountered their first Krell warrior at an intersection. The creature was massive, standing over 2 meters tall on 4 powerful legs. Its carapace was midnight black, and its multiple eyes fixed on the human intruders with alien intelligence. For a split second, nobody moved. Then the warrior opened its mandibles to sound an alarm. Torres fired first. Her weapon, specially designed to penetrate Krell armor, punched through the warrior's carapace with a sharp crack. The alien collapsed, its body twitching as its nervous system shut down. But the damage was done. The warrior had gotten out a partial screech before dying. "They know we're here," Sarah said grimly. "Move fast! Get to the Queen chamber before reinforcements arrive." The team broke into a run, abandoning stealth for speed. Behind them, Sarah could hear the chittering screech of more Krell warriors responding to the alarm. The mothership was waking up, becoming aware of the infection inside it. They rounded a corner and nearly collided with a group of 6 warriors. Combat erupted in the narrow corridor, humans and aliens fighting at point-blank range. Sarah fired repeatedly, her weapon punching holes through chitinous armor. Beside her, Torres fought with deadly efficiency, dropping warriors with precise shots to their vulnerable joints. One warrior got through their line and grabbed Webb, its mandibles snapping toward his throat. Webb managed to wedge his rifle between the mandibles, holding the creature's jaws at bay while it lifted him off the ground. Sarah spun and fired, her shot taking the warrior in its cluster of eyes. It dropped Webb and collapsed, ichor pooling beneath its body. "Thanks, Captain," Webb gasped, scrambling to his feet. "Don't mention it." "Keep moving!" They fought their way forward, leaving a trail of dead Krell behind them. Sarah's weapon was running low on ammunition, and she could see her team was in similar condition. They needed to reach the Queen chamber soon, or they'd be overwhelmed. Finally, they reached a massive doorway sealed with some kind of biological membrane. Beyond it, Sarah's sensors detected a large chamber and a single massive heat signature. "The Queen." "Breach it," Sarah ordered. One of her soldiers attached a breaching charge to the membrane. They backed away and the charge detonated with a wet squelch. The membrane burst, spraying foul-smelling fluids across the corridor. Through the opening, Sarah could see into the Queen chamber. The Queen was even larger than Dr. Vasquez had predicted. She was easily 15 meters long, her bloated body suspended in a web of organic support structures. Smaller Krell drones swarmed around her, tending to her needs, feeding her, protecting her. When the humans burst in, the drones went berserk, suppressing fire. Sarah shouted, opening up with her weapon. "Clear a path to the Queen." The chamber erupted into chaos. Krell drones attacked with suicidal fury, throwing themselves at the humans without regard for their own lives. Sarah's team fought back desperately, but they were outnumbered 20-1. Torres went down, a Krell drone's claw tearing through her armor. She screamed in pain but kept fighting, shooting her attacker in the face at point-blank range. Webb dragged her behind cover while Sarah and the others pushed forward toward the Queen. The Queen herself was trying to flee, her massive body undulating as she attempted to detach from her support web. Sarah realized they had only seconds before she escaped to another part of the ship. "Webb! The sedative, now!" Webb pulled the injector Dr. Vasquez had designed and fired it like a dart gun. The sedative dart struck the Queen in her soft underbelly, injecting its payload directly into her bloodstream. The Queen let out a shriek that made Sarah's ears ring even through her helmet. Then slowly she began to collapse, her movements becoming sluggish. "It's working," Webb shouted triumphantly, but their celebration was premature. The corridor behind them filled with the sound of hundreds of Krell warriors responding to their Queen's distress call. They were about to be overrun. "Forget taking her alive," Torres groaned from behind cover. "Just kill her and let's get out of here." Sarah looked at the sedated Queen, then at the approaching army of warriors. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to save her team while they still could. But if they left now, this whole mission would be for nothing. Humanity needed that Queen. She made a decision that would haunt her forever. "Team Beta, this is Strike Leader," she transmitted. "Abort your mission. I need immediate extraction at my position with heavy firepower." "Captain, we're almost at our target," came the response. "I don't care. Get here now!" "That's an order." Sarah turned to her team. "We hold this position until extraction arrives, no matter what." They formed a defensive line at the chamber entrance, weapons trained on the corridor. The Krell warriors charged. The corridor became a kill zone. Krell warriors poured toward the Queen chamber like a tidal wave of claws and teeth. Sarah and her team met them with disciplined fire, their weapons creating a wall of death at the chamber entrance. Bodies piled up, but more kept coming, climbing over their fallen comrades without hesitation. "Ammunition at 30%, one of the soldiers shouted. Sarah's mind raced through their options. They were running out of ammo, running out of time, and the Krell just kept coming. Where was Team Beta? Every second felt like an eternity. A warrior broke through their line, its massive claw catching one of Sarah's soldiers across the chest. The man went down hard, his armor cracked open, blood spraying across the organic floor. Another soldier grabbed him and dragged him back, but Sarah knew he wouldn't make it. "The wound was too severe, Captain. We can't hold much longer." Webb fired his last magazine, dropping 2 warriors before they could reach Torres. She was still fighting despite her injury, her face pale with pain and blood loss. Then Sarah heard the most beautiful sound in the world. Explosions. Team Beta had arrived, and they'd brought demolition charges. The Krell warriors at the back of the charging horde suddenly erupted in flames as Team Beta detonated charges along the corridor. The explosion created a temporary barrier of fire and debris, buying precious seconds. "Move the Queen now," Sarah ordered. "We're leaving." Team Beta entered the chamber, 8 soldiers who looked just as battered as Sarah's team. Together, they worked to detach the sedated Queen from her support web. The creature was incredibly heavy, requiring 4 people just to lift one section of her bloated body. They wrapped her in containment netting that Dr. Vasquez had designed, creating a makeshift stretcher. "This thing weighs a ton," one soldier grunted. "Then carry it faster," Sarah snapped, helping to lift one corner of the netting. "We've got maybe 2 minutes before this entire ship comes down on our heads." They moved as quickly as they could, hauling the Queen through the corridors while fighting off Krell warriors at every turn. The mothership's alarm system was shrieking now, a sound that set Sarah's teeth on edge. Red bioluminescent patterns pulsed along the walls, signaling danger to every Krell on board. "This is Strike Leader to all teams," Sarah transmitted. "Converge on extraction point Delta. We have the package. I repeat, we have the package. Strike Leader, this is Team Alpha, came a reply filled with static and weapons fire. We're pinned down at Queen Chamber 2. We can't make extraction. Sarah's heart sank. Team Alpha was 6 people, including some of humanity's best soldiers. If they were trapped, they were as good as dead. But she couldn't abandon the Queen to mount a rescue. The mission had to come first. Team Alpha, hold your position as long as you can, Sarah said, hating herself for the order. Once we secure the package, we'll come back for you. Negative, Strike Leader, the Team Alpha commander replied. His voice was eerily calm. We've set demolition charges on this Queen Chamber. We're going to take out as many of these things as we can. Get that Queen back to Titan, make it count. Before Sarah could respond, she heard the explosion even through her radio. Team Alpha had detonated their charges, sacrificing themselves to eliminate one of the queens and buy time for the others to escape. God rest their souls, Webb muttered. They reached the extraction point, the same maintenance bay where they'd docked their boarding pods. But the situation had deteriorated. Krell warriors swarmed the bay and one of their boarding pods had been destroyed, reduced to twisted wreckage by enemy fire. We've got 2 pods left for 18 people and a queen, Torres observed. We need to lose weight. Sarah knew what she meant. Some of them would have to stay behind. The mathematics of survival were brutal and unforgiving. She looked at her team, at the people who had trusted her enough to follow her into this nightmare. They looked back at her and she saw acceptance in their eyes. They'd all known this was a one-way mission for some of them. Anyone injured badly enough that they can't fight into the pods now, Sarah ordered. Torres, you're going. Webb, you're going. Get that Queen back to Dr. Vasquez. Captain, I can still fight, Torres protested. That's not a request, Lieutenant. You're too valuable to lose. Both of you are. Now move. 6 people climbed into the remaining boarding pods, carefully loading the sedated Queen into the cargo pod. That left 12 soldiers in the bay, including Sarah, facing down an army of Krell with rapidly depleting ammunition. Sarah activated her command channel to Titan Station. This is Strike Leader. The package is secure and en route to you. 12 of us are staying behind to ensure it makes it out. Tell Dr. Vasquez to make it worth it. Tell her to end this war. Admiral Reeves's voice came back, thick with emotion. Captain Chen, you've done more than anyone could have asked. You've given us hope. We won't waste it. I know you won't, sir. Strike Leader out. Sarah cut the channel and turned to her remaining team. They'd formed a defensive semicircle around the boarding pods, buying time for them to launch. Krell warriors were massing at all the bay entrances, preparing for a final overwhelming charge. It's been an honor serving with you, Sarah told her team. Let's show these bugs what humans are made of. The soldiers responded with grim smiles and raised weapons. They knew they were about to die, but they'd die fighting, giving their friends time to escape with humanity's best chance at survival. Pods are launching, one soldier called out. The 2 boarding pods detached from the mothership and accelerated away, their engines burning bright against the darkness of space. Krell fighters immediately gave chase, but escort ships from Titan Station moved to intercept, creating a protective corridor for the pods to escape through. They're going to make it, Sarah said softly, watching the pods grow smaller. Then she turned to face the Krell warriors flooding into the bay. All right, you ugly bastards. Come and get us, the Krell charged. What followed was less a battle and more a last stand. 12 humans against hundreds of aliens, fighting with everything they had. Sarah's weapon ran dry, so she switched to her sidearm. When that ran out, she picked up a piece of debris and used it as a club. Around her, her team fought with the same desperate courage, refusing to go down quietly. One by one, they fell. First the soldier on Sarah's left, dragged down by 3 warriors. Then the one on her right, impaled by a warrior's bladed limb. Sarah kept fighting, her body moving on pure adrenaline and rage. She'd lost count of how many Krell she'd killed. It didn't matter. There were always more. A claw caught her across the back, tearing through her armor. Pain exploded through her body, but she spun and drove her improvised weapon into the warrior's face. It collapsed and she stumbled over its body, nearly falling. Only 4 humans left now. They backed into a corner, forming a tight group with no room to maneuver. The Krell surrounded them, chittering and clicking with what sounded almost like satisfaction. They knew they'd won. Sarah raised her empty weapon, ready to go down swinging. She thought of Earth, of the billions lost, of her crew on the Defiance, of Team Alpha, who'd sacrificed themselves to give the mission a chance. She thought of the 2 boarding pods racing back to Titan with their precious cargo. It was worth it. Even dying here, alone and surrounded by enemies, it was worth it if it meant humanity survived. Then something unexpected happened. The Krell warriors stopped their advance. They parted, creating a pathway. And through that pathway came something Sarah had never seen before. Another queen, but this one was mobile, smaller than the sedated one but still massive. She moved on multiple legs, her body armored and powerful. This was a war queen, a commander who led from the front. The war queen approached Sarah, studying her with alien intelligence. When she spoke, her voice was transmitted through some kind of organic radio, translated into human language by technology Sarah didn't understand. "You are the one who leads these insects," the queen said. It wasn't a question. Sarah straightened despite her injuries. She wouldn't show weakness, not now. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Nations Space Service. And humans aren't insects. We're the species that's going to destroy you." The queen's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Bold words from one who is about to die. "Your species is broken. Your world burns. You have lost." "We haven't lost until the last human stops fighting," Sarah replied. "And that's never going to happen. You can kill me. You can kill everyone in this bay, but there are billions more where we came from. And we'll never stop. Never surrender. We'll fight you until one of our species is extinct." The queen studied her for a long moment. "This is why you must be destroyed. Your defiance. Your refusal to accept the natural order. The Krell are superior. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. You should submit." "Then you don't understand humans at all," Sarah said. She smiled, and it was a terrible expression full of blood and defiance. "We don't submit. We adapt, we overcome, and we learn from our enemies." She pulled a small device from her belt. It was her emergency beacon, modified with an explosive charge. Not enough to cause serious damage to the mothership, but enough to kill everyone in the immediate area. "You wanted to know what makes humans dangerous?" Sarah continued. "It's not our technology or our numbers. It's that we'd rather die free than live as slaves." 6 months later, Titan Station had transformed from a desperate refuge into the nerve center of humanity's resistance. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in her laboratory, watching the sedated Krell Queen through reinforced glass. The creature had been kept unconscious since her capture, fed through tubes, studied from every possible angle. And finally, after months of tireless work, Vasquez had her breakthrough. "It's beautiful," she whispered, studying the chemical formula on her display screen, in a terrifying sort of way. Admiral Reeves entered the lab, looking older but with a spark of hope in his eyes that hadn't been there 6 months ago. "Doctor, your message said it was urgent. Have you found something?" Vasquez turned to face him, and her expression was triumphant. "Admiral, I've cracked it. The Queen's pheromone control system. More importantly, I found a way to disrupt it." She pulled up holographic displays showing complex chemical structures. The queens control their warriors through a specific pheromone signature. Each queen has a unique frequency, like a radio channel. The warriors are biologically programmed to obey it without question. "We knew that already," Reeves said impatiently. "Yes, but what we didn't know was that the system has a fatal flaw. The Krell evolved as a hive species on a single world. They never had to deal with signal interference because there were no other hive minds to compete with. Their communication is incredibly sophisticated but completely unshielded." Reeves leaned forward, understanding dawning. "You can jam it. Better than that. I can override it." Vasquez's smile was predatory. "I've synthesized a counter pheromone based on the Queen's biology. When released into an environment with Krell warriors, it doesn't just disrupt their communication. It makes them think the pheromone is coming from us. It makes them think humans are their queens." The implications were staggering. Reeves felt his pulse quicken. "You're telling me we can control the Krell? For limited periods, yes. The effect wears off after a few hours, and the Krell will eventually adapt their biology to filter out the false signal. But in the short term, we can turn their own warriors against them." Reeves walked to the window overlooking Titan's construction yards. In the past 6 months, humanity had rebuilt. Refugee ships had been converted into warships. Mining colonies had become weapons factories. The billion survivors had thrown everything into the war effort because they knew there would be no second chances. "How quickly can you weaponize this?" he asked. "The production labs are already synthesizing it. We'll have enough for field testing within a week, enough for full deployment in a month. Then we moved to phase 2 of Chen's plan." Sarah Chen's name had become legendary in the months since her death. The woman who'd rammed a battle cruiser, who'd led the mission to capture a queen, who'd sacrificed herself to buy humanity time. Her story was told in every survivor camp, every ship, every colony. She'd become a symbol of human defiance. The plan she'd outlined before her death was simple in concept but brutal in execution. Don't just defend, attack. Hit the Krell where it hurt. Take the war to them. Reeves activated his command channel. All senior officers report to the war room. It's time to take our planet back. The war room filled quickly. Captains, commanders, civilian leaders, scientists. Everyone who had a stake in humanity's survival. They looked tired but determined. 6 months of brutal fighting had hardened them all. Ladies and gentlemen, Reeves began, Dr. Vasquez has provided us with a weapon that can change the course of this war. But a weapon is only useful if we have the courage to use it. I'm proposing we launch a full-scale assault on Earth. Murmurs rippled through the room. Earth was still heavily defended by Krell forces. Attacking it directly would be incredibly risky. The Krell have fortified Earth because they think we're broken, Reeves continued. They think we're hiding out here in the outer system, too afraid to fight back. They're wrong. 6 months ago, we lost our homeworld. Today, we take it back. He pulled up a tactical display showing the solar system. We've identified the primary Krell mothership in Earth orbit. It's the command vessel for their entire operation in this sector. Dr. Vasquez's weapon will allow us to turn its own warrior drones against it. While they're fighting each other, we hit the mothership with everything we have. What about civilian survivors on Earth? Someone asked. There might still be humans hiding down there. That's why we're doing this, Reeves replied. Every day the Krell occupy Earth is another day our people suffer. We end this now. We end it decisively. Over the next 3 weeks, humanity prepared for its counterattack. The fleet assembled at Titan, a mix of military warships, converted civilian vessels, and experimental ships built from salvaged Krell technology. It wasn't as impressive as the fleet that had defended Earth 6 months ago, but it was meaner, more desperate, crewed by people who had nothing left to lose. Lieutenant Commander Rachel Torres stood on the bridge of her new ship, the UNSS Vengeance. She'd survived her injuries from the mothership raid and had been given command of a fast attack cruiser. Her mission was to deploy Dr. Vasquez's weapon directly into the enemy mothership's ventilation systems. You ready for this? Marcus Webb asked. He'd been assigned as her second-in-command. I've been ready since Captain Chen died saving my life, Torres replied. Time to make it count. The fleet departed Titan Station in a staggered formation, using the asteroid belt for cover as they approached Earth. Scouts reported Krell positions, and the fleet adjusted course to avoid early detection. They needed to get close before the enemy realized what was happening. When Earth finally came into view, Torres felt her heart clench. The planet that had been vibrant blue and green was now mottled with brown and gray. Vast sections of the surface were scorched, cities reduced to radioactive craters, but there were still patches of green, still signs of life. Earth was wounded but not dead. Target mothership located, the sensor officer reported. It's in geosynchronous orbit over what used to be North America. All ships attack formation, Admiral Reeves ordered from his flagship. Torres, you're up. Get that weapon deployed. The Vengeance broke from the main fleet, accelerating toward the Krell mothership at maximum speed. Torres flew with the same reckless skill that had kept her alive during the initial invasion, weaving through Krell fighter patrols before they could react. Approaching deployment range, Webb announced. Krell forces are responding. We've got incoming. Keep us steady, Torres ordered. We only get one shot at this. The Vengeance shuddered as enemy weapons fire struck her shields. Torres ignored the damage warnings, focused entirely on reaching the deployment point. They needed to be close enough for the weapon to be effective but far enough to escape the resulting chaos. Deploying now. Webb activated the weapon dispenser. Dozens of canisters shot from the Vengeance's hull, streaking toward the Krell mothership. They struck the massive vessel and detonated, releasing clouds of Dr. Vasquez's synthesized pheromones. The chemicals spread rapidly through the mothership's organic ventilation system, reaching every corridor, every chamber. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Krell forces around Earth went insane. Warriors turned on each other, attacking their own ships with savage fury. The mothership's fighter escorts began firing on their own mothership, targeting weapon systems and engines. Inside the mothership itself, thousands of warrior drones revolted against their queens, driven by false pheromone signals that told them their queens were imposters. It's working. Webb shouted triumphantly. The Krell forces are in complete disarray. All ships attack now, Reeves ordered. The human fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. They targeted the confused Krell ships, destroying vessels that were too busy fighting each other to defend themselves. It was a massacre, a reversal of what had happened 6 months ago. Torres brought the Vengeance around for another pass, watching as the Krell mothership began to tear itself apart from internal fighting. Explosions rippled across its hull as warrior drones sabotaged critical systems. The massive vessel, which had seemed invincible just minutes ago, was dying. "Admiral, the mothership is breaking up," someone reported. "Its power core is going critical." "All ships clear the blast radius," Reeves ordered. "Fall back to safe distance." The human fleet retreated as the Krell mothership's death throes reached their climax. The entire vessel was racked with explosions, pieces of hull breaking away and tumbling toward Earth. Then the power core detonated. The explosion was visible from Titan. A miniature sun bloomed in Earth orbit, consuming the mothership and everything near it. When the light faded, the primary Krell command vessel was gone, reduced to expanding debris. But humanity wasn't done. With the command ship destroyed and the Krell forces in chaos, the fleet descended on the remaining enemy vessels. Ship after ship was destroyed, and within hours, the Krell presence in Earth orbit was eliminated. "We're detecting signals from the surface," a communications officer reported. "Survivors." "There are human survivors broadcasting from multiple locations." Reeves felt tears streaming down his face. They'd done it. Against impossible odds, they'd taken Earth back. "All ships begin landing operations," he ordered. "Locate survivors and begin evacuation of hostile zones. It's time to bring our people home." Ovmin,